Hello, I'm Robin and welcome to the September edition of Molten Music Monthly. This month's monthly is mostly all about Bristronica, which is also why it's a little bit late, because Bristronica was just this weekend and this is the only time I've had to put this together before we go crashing into the next month. So while this is September's Molten Monthly, it may well be October that you're looking at it in. But that's not a problem, right? We all understand where we are, yeah? So anyway, this weekend was Bristronica, Machina Bristronica, run by Elevator Sound down in over there, Bristol way, many miles and hours from where I am. And I spent the weekend there in the company of other like-minded synth heads, nerds, geeks, artists, creatives, wonderful, open and glorious people at probably the most friendly place on the planet. It was lovely. It was full of relatively decent food, some good beer, some crazy music, some hard noise, and lots of lovely people. Oh, and synthesizers and modular and stuff, which we'll get to. So I'm going to throw a whole bunch of that together. I mean, it's impossible to go into absolutely everything, although, actually, to be honest, on the whole, it was stuff that we'd seen before, but there were a good, more than a handful of things that we hadn't seen, and I'm sorry already about my voice, because this is what happens when you shout at people in pubs playing very loud music all weekend. So yeah, we're going to cope with it together though, I think, and it will be alright. Getting straight to the good stuff then, probably the best thing I saw at the show was the Faderpunk. This is from the Atov project, which I thought had gone. I thought it was all over. It's one of the biggest regrets I have, is I never got around to building the 16N fader porch thingy that Atov did. That I thought was great. It's just been over there out of sight, and I never got around to quite building it. So I was delighted to see that Arthur and his table were alight with new things. That's fantastic. The big thing that I was interested in was a new version of the Faderpunk, now called the Faderpunk, rather deliciously. Now this has taken on quite a bit of evolution. It looks similar. It's a wide thing of 16 sliders, each with its own CV port at the top. Now what's special about it is that it can be absolutely anything you want. So you want that one fader here to be an LFO, it can. This one to be an envelope, it can. This one to be a quantizer, yes. This to be a sequencer, yes. This to be gates and triggers, yes, is always the answer to the question. That's what makes it so flipping versatile. I mean, we are very used to now multifunctional modules that can do wonderful things, and you can turn them into all sorts of different things, but they tend to be a lot of things. It has a lot of depth, so all of these layers behind a single little interface, whereas this is the other way. This is horizontal, longitudinal, so that every function that you could possibly want is available at all times on the front panel, and that makes it pretty damn awesome. It's got lovely coloured buttons. It even comes with a sheet of stickers, so you can sticker out your buttons in order to show kind of what you've decided that they're going to be, assuming that you've decided they're going to be something. But what I really like about it is the potential of you being able to just sit it down here, and I can go LFO, envelope, this thing, that thing, quantizer, sequencer, modulator, one leaf, flippity flip, and have that infect my entire system. It's very controllable, very good way of throwing things into things. I mean, I have things that do similar stuff, but just not quite in that depth, in that level of versatility. And it's all done through apps on your computer. You connect it up and then you program everything, tell you what you want it to be through these lovely visual user interfaces, and off you go from there. And then the slider acts as whatever it needs to act as. Could be depth, could be speed, could be rate, could be level, CV, whatever. And it's also MIDI as well, so it doesn't have to be CV. It can be MIDI also. So and it will all kick all of that out at the same time. It's great. It's simple, it's straightforward, and as I was talking to Arthur, it occurred to me that this was exactly the sort of thing that I first approached Bafako with when we decided to build a module together. Bafako said, "So, what's on your mind? What would you like to build? I said, right, I want a 24 channel thing with all these faders, and these faders can be everything. They can do this and they can do that. You can reprogram that, and that can be, this big thing. And yeah. And Bafako said, well, why don't we start off with an attenuverter? Which is exactly what they needed to say, because my ideas were massive and out there and going to cost thousands. And what you need to do is to keep a module simple. That's very important. Anyway, by the by, but it's simple, it's straightforward, it's powerful within the context of everything, whether that's MIDI or control voltage. I mean, it's the other thing is that you could program it to be a controller of something like the Nymphest, something which has a layer of MIDI control which is not accessible to you, or a software synth or something like that. You could program it to be that, and that's useful in itself. And then you could reprogram it to be something else, or to be half of something. MIDI over here, CV over here. Just brilliant. Really, really, really liked it. This next thing is less that I really, really liked it, and more that I was boggled and baffled and sort of impressed by it. This is from Forge Time, and it's called the VHIKK X. There was a VHIKK, and now it's the VHIKK X because it's an expanded version, and it's an algorithmic noise generator and audio processor. It seems to have captured the idea that you fiddle with knobs and just stuff happens. And the response to this thing, seemingly, I've never heard of it before, first time I saw it, but everyone I spoke to, it just went, wow, that's just the most awesome thing they've ever seen or heard. And in fact, while I was talking to the guy about his module, there's another guy trying one out. And he said he already had one, but he's so excited about it that he had to come and play on the one on the stand as well, and thought it was just extremely awesome. So, I mean, I put headphones on and I move things about, and we had these shifting tones, these shifting soundscapes of folding sound and cascading bits of stuff going on, being pulled and reeved and pumped and sculptured about the place. It was, I guess it's a sound designer's dream. It's a cinematic, instant filmatic sound generator. It has knobs that aren't necessarily labeled to do what they're particularly supposed to do. It seeds stuff, it swaps stuff, it skewers stuff, it morphs, it bends, it warps. It was just fun, and you've got this big sound going on as you're not entirely sure what you're doing and whether you're really having an effect or not, but it seems to be so. Your man suggests that you might need two, because it's also an audio processor, so you can run everything else through it, mess that about and kick it out the other side. So if you have two running at the same time, you can have one focusing on sound generation and the other one focusing on processing, which sounds like a plan, except that you can't buy them for love nor money because they sell out before they're even made. So this is something perhaps that's going to be for those people who are prepared to pay handsomely and to wait and have patience and know exactly what it is that they want and don't need to try it first. So that was quite fascinating. That's a VHIKK X from Forge Time. Go and check it out. Right, here's a bunch of stuff which I'm going to run through relatively quickly in order to try to squeeze everything in. And I should say that I didn't get to see everything. I did a lot of talking, a lot of conversations, a lot of shaking hands, but not so much of the actual looking at the gear. So if I missed you, I'm really sorry. There were definitely some people there that I meant to speak to that I didn't get to speak to. Looking at you making sound machines, for instance. Lots of people who you were never either free, or when I got back to you, you weren't there, various reasons, and I was dragged off to something else. But I did get a chance to see a bunch of stuff, and also I've been looking at the Sonic State videos, which I should also big up. Nick and his Sonic State team do a fantastic job over the whole weekend of capturing the essence of the show and the new and exciting stuff, as well as, older and exciting stuff that's there at the show. So do go onto YouTube, check out those videos, and you will get a real sense of what Bristronica was all about this year. So the ones that I found interesting out of that and what I saw myself are as follows. So from Runic Labs, they are passionate about sound quality and the signals coming out of your Eurorack cases. And they have designed a passive DI, which doesn't sound particularly exciting, doesn't look particularly exciting either. It's a very minimalist front panel with a whacking great big XLR socket on the front, and the idea is that it converts your hot Eurorack signal into a mic level signal that can plug directly into a mixer without any other DI box or any other shenanigans. So if you've ever played live and taken your modular along, it's usual that you'll plug into something or other via an adapter or two and probably go into some kind of stereo channel on a mixer somewhere else, and that may not be the best solution. It would probably be better if you could plug directly into main channels on a desk, and that would give you more options for tonal control, give you more options for using mic preamps and other colouring and saturation devices in order to improve your sound. Basically, the idea is it's going to give you a much better sound out of your Eurorack. Simple, straightforward, does the job. It's a great solution for that particular problem. Laine Modular, I dropped by them. They do 1U modular in particular, and they had a couple of new modules out. One of them was a bandpass filter. I'm not a massive bandpass filter fan, but the guy sort of talked me into it really easily just by opening my mind and enlightening me to why on earth you'd want a bandpass filter. Basically, this is a very wide bandpass filter. The idea is that it cuddles part of your frequency spectrum, so it separates stuff out. So if you've got a whole bunch of stuff going on, you can put some of it through this and it will shift it in frequency, and then you could shift other things in other places in order to give you that spectral separation, which will just make everything appear better out of the mush of your usual crappy bass lines crashing into pads, crashing into drums, crashing into everything else. Rather than having it all in the middle, it allows you to shift things about, and that's a neat idea, and I hadn't ever thought about that before, because I don't think about things particularly deeply. It's mostly just sawdust up here. And they also had a boundary EQ, and if I knew what that was, I'd tell you all about it. See, I'm going to fail desperately at this. There was a Welsh company there who I think I've spoken about before. At least I've definitely recognised it. And I think, but I'm not even going to attempt to do any of the pronunciation, because I'll just do it wrong and make a fool of myself. Not that, I would really notice if I was. But anyway, they had 3 modules. One is a phaser that we've seen before, I'm pretty sure, which is pretty cool all by itself. The other one was a filter. And then thirdly is this dual diode tube driven VCA. They look very, very smart, particularly together. The front panel design is such that it flows into each other really quite nicely. I like the look of it. I didn't get to hear it. I just liked what they were doing and liked what it looked like, and wish I had any idea how to pronounce any of it. This is me just dropping in from later, because I forgot to mention this one, and this is Divergent Waves, who are right next door to the Welsh guys on the same table. And I've had a kit of theirs to do the Sycamore for a very, very long time, which I must get around to, which I am going to get around to in my next DIY adventure. But by the by, they had something called the One Shot, which was a modulation device with a great big whacking great button on it. You hit the button and it sends out waveforms. I guess it's about envelopes, but it's sort of any modulation really, and it can do repeats and bursts and all sorts of things like that. And so it's essentially a one-shot modulation machine, which is pretty cool. And the Sycamore, which I plan to build, is a Turing machine derivative, I think, with all sorts of interesting things built in, which I absolutely will be building very soon. I actually got a chance to play on the Playtronica Orbita. Now, I've been talking about this thing for a long time. In fact, I've been talking to Playtronica about it for a long time, I have to say, encouraging them down the road to say that, keep doing it. It actually looks good. It does look good, because there's this temptation or this thought of assuming that it's some kind of toy. It looks a little bit kind of toy-like. Is that actually going to work? What is it? It's kind of a turntable circular sequencer, and having actually played with it in the flesh, I can tell you that it's far more robust than I thought it was going to be. It's relatively solid, it's really well made, and it flipping works, and it's a ball of fun. It really is. So turntable going around, light sensors, you put these little discs on in different places. The colour of the disc represents the pitch. which is clever. I didn't know that. And the position obviously is the trigger point. And if you put things in the middle, they're moving faster, slower than stuff on the outside. I can't remember one way or the other. You know, orbital gravitational pulls and such like. But it's just such a fun way of building up a sequence, or triggers. They've also got a way of dragging out modulation by using kind of fading colours on a sheet of paper stuck on it going around. That apparently does a thing. So ultimately, I think you need 3. You need one doing some drums, one doing some melody, and one doing some modulation. That would be the ideal thing. Apparently there's no sync in particular. I mean, you could tie rubber bands to each other, I suppose, or you just have to sort of eyeball it. But it's just it's a nice, beautiful, playful object that genuinely gives you the opportunity to interact with a sequence, and I think that's a brilliant tool for learning, but also for creativity and just doing something differently. Good job. I hope at some point to get a chance to review one. I think that would be super. If you're out there, Playtronica, do send one in. That would be great. Music Thing Modular were there showing their workshop in a box, which is great. I would love to have a play of one of those one of these days. Get around to it, I think. But something else I had is a new version of the Radio Music. Radio Music, if you've not come across it before, is a simple little module into which you stuck an SD card full of samples, and you would use a tune knob to sort of tune it like a radio. So you'd sort of, rather than swapping between radio stations, you'd swap between samples, between WAV files, and these could be huge WAV files. So people often use it to put in some kind of background to their modularizing and their live performances, or you could just use it for hits, or just for random sounds to throw into your set. It's great like that. We've got a new version. It's all been upgraded. The sound fidelity is much higher. It has a speed control, and you can now also control different aspects from their little 8MU controller, this little slidey thingy, which I think gives you like start-stop position and slowing and like stretching and time stretching and squashing and bits and pieces like that to make it even more interesting. Although I think in some ways the strength of the Radio Music is the fact that you just have it going in the background as much as anything else, and you sort of mix it in when you feel you need it. That's always been the joy and the simplicity of it, I think. So it'll be interesting to see what people do with the upgraded version. Halftime Modular have an 8-track recorder. This is very similar, I have to say, to the ALM stem recorder that we saw last month. But heck, more the merrier. We always like to have more than one of a thing. And this is same idea. You've got 8 inputs onto this module and a record button. You hit record and it records 8 channels of stuff to an SD card. Brilliant. There's an expander to give you the outputs back as well, but you can also chain them up to give you 16 channels, potentially more, I guess, of audio recording. I think it's one of those things that's going to become necessary as we fill up with stuff. It's always a struggle to record what you're doing. I would love to have a one-button recorder. I mean, that's the whole reason I have my tape machine up here, right? This tape machine. The idea with that is so that I could just hit record and record stuff. But do I heck? I'd love to think that I do, but is it ever quite ready and set up? But I don't know. Anyway, but to have a module that's integrated into your system that everything is flowing through that you can just hit record on, I think is a vital thing to have. Look into that, I think. Seaside Modular have pulled a module out of VCV Rack into the hardware realm. Very interesting. Called the Proteus or Proteus. What do we think it is? Proteus? I don't know. Anyway, what is it? Well, it's a sequencer that is a generative sequencer that changes and evolves your melody depending on how bored it gets. Which I think is a fantastic concept. So you've got a little melody going along and the module just goes, oh, sod this, I'm going to change that note over there. Then I'm going to change that bit and I'm going to fold the whole thing in half. Oh, that's more interesting. I'll leave it alone for a bit. No, that's rubbish. I'm going to try something else. And so it has this kind of conversation with itself where the thing is constantly reevaluating the musical value of what it is that it's doing, and then poking at it and giving it something new. It has a lot more controls than that, and I think you can also like snapshot bits out of it, so if it comes up with something decent you can hang on to that and come back to it another time. But I love the concept of having a patience knob, and you're making it more or less impatient. Brilliant. Totally love that. Another weird machine called the Croak from Konstantine, I think it is. The guy was saying that he's put this together because he couldn't find anything else like it, which is a very common genesis of a module. And what is it? Well, I don't know. It's a sort of a complex oscillator. It has a couple of sound sources that are being mashed and pushed and modulated into each other. It has a whole bunch of sliders to push up and down in order to affect change and to affect modulation and how these things relate to each other. So, it was quite noisy, quite interesting, massive droney sound coming off itself. But heck, deep and interesting, some great sounds and all sorts of stuff going on. I chatted to a man from MyVolts who I've chatted to in the past about voltages, because I get very confused about powering things. I look into it, I try to work it out, I do strange things. I take my case out outside and try to power it on a battery and experiment with things like that, and I'm mostly understanding what it is that I'm doing, but a lot of the time I'm not. And whenever I come up against a MyVolts thing where I have some strange adapter and a cable, and it's using USB to power things it has no business powering, I'm going, I don't really understand how this works, or why this works and why this doesn't work, and why. Anyway, they have a new thing which apparently is going to solve everybody's problems, which is quite interesting. It's called the Silent Alchemist. Yes, it is. And it's like a USB power hub, and it sits there. It's got a whole bunch of outputs, a whole bunch of USB-C outputs. You can plug stuff in and they all power stuff. How it does that, I don't really know. I think, as I understand it, if your device is mains powered, like you plug it straight into the wall and there's no wall warty thing in between, it's just a straight kettle lead straight into the back, then that's the best thing. That's the best way to power that device, is just like that. However, if it has some kind of wall wart or 9-volt power supply, 12-volt power supply, that kind of thing, you can power it differently. You can use this box with a USB-C cable and then a connector on the end which gives it the barrel DC connector for your box, and you can power a shitload of stuff off this. So rather than having lots of big 3-pin plugs and big chunky transformers knocking around the place all the time, you could use this one box, single cable into all your stuff and power the lot. It's brilliant, flipping brilliant. I mean, it could revolutionize your gigging and your desktop full of stuff. I know certainly at Synth Picnic coming up, it would be the ideal thing to have on a table to power a bunch of small synths. That would be fantastic. Which is exactly what they had running at Bristronica. They had a jam table set up and it was running and powering pretty much everything on that table. It's a great idea. One of these days I will find the time to sit down and really hash out this whole power business, this whole voltages and what is going on, and sort my own stuff out, because I have so many power strips just flipping everywhere, none of which are remotely posh or isolated, because that's the other thing, this power supply is isolated. So all those power problems you get by powering things off laptops, you get these earth loops going on and you get all sorts of noise and stuff squiggling up the audio cables. That is dealt with because the whole thing is isolated and it lifts all the grounds and sorts all of that sort of stuff out, which is another awesome thing. Feedme Synthesis had this great big whacking super desktop blue device, which was some kind of circular cosmological sequencer called Cadex. So it's this circular touch sensitive LED planetoid orbital something or other going on, very similar, funnily enough, to the Playtronica thing, I think. But this is done without actually putting physical things on things. It's just got little touch points and LEDs going around. But otherwise, a very similar kind of idea. It had 5 channels of sequencing going on. You can also morph between different patterns. I'm not exactly clear on how it all works, but it was an impressive looking desktop device that could be a very interesting way of sequencing that you haven't thought of before. I'm really sorry if I missed your particular thing. It's just how it was on the day, what you could see, what you couldn't see. There was really important things and really important people that I needed to speak to that I didn't at all. Completely failed in most respects, but I did get to have a really good time, so that's the main thing. But if I've missed your product and you'd like to tell me about it, then just drop us a line. Drop us a line and I will put it in next month's Molten Monthly. That's what I do. That's how this all works. All you got to do is tell me and I will put it in there. Got a few more things that were at Bristronica to talk about. So let's crack on. So probably the biggest news of the show was the Sequential Fourm. Four with an M on the end. Yes, this is a natty little synthesizer from Sequential. It has echoes of the Prophet 5 in its looks, in its motifs and fonts and bits and pieces, but it's actually very compact, very cute, very small, interesting 4-voice analog synthesizer. It has a slightly compact keyboard with really strangely thin black keys, which is, I have to say, were a little bit off-putting. Don't know what else to say. The other thing it had was polyphonic aftertouch, which is probably the big thing, because every bloody preset in this thing, as soon as you played it, it went off somewhere else. They were not content. No preset programmer was content just to have a flipping sound. No, it has to be a sound that's then modulated as soon as you put any pressure onto those keys at all. It's that MPE mindset that everything must warble, which is fine. That's fine. That's completely fine. I was able to find the init button, or at least you found a bank with no presets in, and was able to actually play with it as a lovely 2-oscillator, 4-voice, multi-mode filter, 2 envelopes, LFO, a little bit of a modulation matrix like on the Pro 1. Nice little synthesizer. There were no effects, so it was very, very dry, which is quite odd because I'm very used to having effects on everything these days. So it was quite raw, quite angry. The filter was good. There's no sort of drop off with the resonance or anything like that. It was relatively easy to do, to detune stuff. It had a unison button so you could stack up those oscillators, which really sounded quite nice. It has all the usual stuff, but what's seemingly lovely about it is that it's a very together, simple synthesizer that's straightforward. It takes you through all the usual bits and pieces and works just like as you'd expect it to. So no real surprises other than the flipping wibbly modulation of the polyphonic aftertouch, which is fun, and that's a fun thing, and that's something you can get into. But what's also remarkable is the price, which is about $7.99, I think. So it's on a similar ballpark to the Moog Messenger. Moog Messenger is a monophonic synthesizer from Moog, which has a lot of the same, both of them have this same legacy and this weight of expectation and quality and premiumness about them. But they've got, one is a 4-voice polyphonic and one is a monophonic. Interesting. Different, of course. You should have both, absolutely, as we should all have. But it's a fantastic idea if this is your first synthesizer, or you're just looking to expand a little bit in something compact and interesting, then it's really well priced and would give you a lot of scope for a lot of synthesisness, I think. So yeah, exciting. I think reviews and stuff have already been out and everyone's kind of raving about it, but for my play, I played with it for about 5-10 minutes. Yeah, it was nice. It was nice once I turned off the polyphonic aftertouch. It's just me, all right? It's just me. But going through some of the presets, yeah, there's some great stuff, some great sounds out there, if that's the sort of thing that you want. Another new synth was the DMNO, I think it's called, from Udo. This looks, to everyone, anyone who looks at it goes, oh yeah, it looks like the Oberheim 2-voice. But apparently, they're at pains to say it is nothing like the Oberheim 2-voice and is never intended to be so. I mean, they should have just changed it a little bit, because they're going to get that question all the time. So what is it? Well, the idea is, I think, that it's 2 8-voice synthesizers put together. And this is a nice idea. I mean, they can't help but reflect something of the 2-voice in the idea of putting 2 synths together and then letting those 2 interact. Because you can run it as a single 16-voice synthesizer, or you can run it as 2 8s, or binaurally as an 8-voice something or other. Oh, I don't know. And you can put these in different configurations, so one after the other, or parallel to together, or somehow enmeshed in one another's oodlings and bits and pieces. So it's a fun way to do a synthesizer, and because it's the same digital oscillators that they use in the other synthesizers, it sounds flipping phenomenal. It has some new multi-core filters. Not sure what that means, but these are undoubtedly going to be stereo multi-mode filters that you can do all sorts of weird stuff with. And it has an arpeggiator, sequencer, and a shitload of effects. One to look out for, I think. It's compact. Again, there seems to be a compact theme going on. Perhaps people have lost faith in the massive synths, or maybe we'll just run out of room and find that we don't really need that expanse. Not for everything. I mean, for the players, obviously for the players. But if you're a player, you'll probably have a keyboard that you prefer that you then MIDI into everything else that you want to play. But I don't know. We'll see. But I'm a fan of the mid-sized keyboard, I have to say. So that's looking pretty good. Following the compact theme is the MASK1EX, or X, I suppose, from Kodamo. Now they produced this big keyboard, a really, really big keyboard that had this bit masking synthesis involved, which is the idea of taking a sine wave, chopping it up and turning it inside out and bits and pieces in order to create very, very diverse and versatile waveforms. They've taken this, and for what seems to be a limited run of a very small number of these, they've squashed it down to a very small and cute compact desktop module and are selling it for like a tenth of the price or something. It's like $299, whereas the big synth was like 1,700 quid or something. So it has almost everything that the big one has. It's a little bit less fidelity, a little bit fewer voices, that sort of thing, but on the whole the sound and the synth engine is the same. I mean, it's a button front end. I mean, there's like a data entry knob and a bunch of buttons, so it's not exactly a fruity knob twibbling experience, but it does sound interesting. It's very different to a lot of other things out there. But this limited run, as far as I understand, it is all done. They sold out in seconds, and that might be it. But surely if they sell out of something quite so quickly, then they perhaps will be encouraged to do another run. Future Retro is re-releasing the 777. This, back in 1997, was their take, apparently, on the TB303. Because at the time, lots of dance music producers and stuff were trying to find that 303 sound, and most of the TB303s were either broken or had already gone to landfill, and so there was a desperate search for analog sounding things of a similar nature, and Future Retro built this one they called the 777, but they expanded massively on the 303. They added another oscillator, more waveforms, multi-mode filters, distortion, FM, kind of all the things that were being modded into old 303s anyway, but they built it all into a big thing, and of course pulled the sequencer apart to make it actually usable. They had that running for a little while, and they all hand built and that kind of thing, and then they eventually disappeared. But they are back, and they're under new management relatively recently, trying to re-establish themselves. And the 777 is something which is very precious to them, and they've been working for a number of years and trying to get it together again. So they're doing that. It's essentially going to be the same machine, but they have upgraded the internals, obviously modern production techniques. Better chips, better processing. They're also going to be doing some kind of remix thing to the sequencer to make it a little bit more exciting. So that, I think, is... Oh yeah, it's on Kickstarter now, that's right, and they've already got double their goal. So it's going to happen. It's definitely going to happen. But if you want to have one of these at a decent price, then get in there now. There's still a few days remaining. Elektron. These are my favourite people that I like to poke fun at because they keep producing the same box over and over again, which I find personally quite hilarious, because I've never really used one, so I don't understand. What I do understand is that there is a massive fan base out there who love the Elektron stuff, and that's fair enough, and I have absolute, complete and utter respect for all those people who love making noises on digitacs and digitones and octi tracks and wibbly wobbly waps. That's fantastic. I actually had a good conversation with Elektron this year, and that was fun. That was nice. And so perhaps it's something that I could give some time to and get into and have a look at and check out. I think that might be nice. I mean, their latest thing called the Tonverk apparently is a new direction for them. Well, new direction is the next evolution, because it's a slightly larger box while still looking very similar to the stuff that's gone previously, but this does have a little keyboard on it for playing stuff. You don't have to plug a MIDI keyboard in anymore, which is a nice idea. And the new thing about this is that it supports polyphonic multi-samples, so much larger instruments. Rather than just a single sample that you can play, you can now load up proper multi-sampled instruments for a much higher level of creativity and dynamicism, and pianos and strings and all those kind of real things. It's still sort of 8 tracks within 8 tracks, and every track can be whatever track it can be, and each of them can be sequenced independently, and it runs together as a whole. It's still got tons of modulators that you can apply to all sorts of different places, and loads of effects, and it has that workflow of that of that screen and those icons, and having to learn your way into the Elektron workflow, which is probably the biggest barrier to using it, is that I believe it takes a little bit of time to get the hang of what the heck and all is going on. But I certainly know so many people who absolutely love Elektron boxes, and so there's got to be something in there. There's got to be something wonderful in there that I would like to have a sample of sometime. I'm going to give it some thought, right? Noise Engineering have a new version of their Digitalis, is that right? Digitwolis. I don't know. Mimetic. It's the MD2. They're calling it the MD. Let's call it the MD2, right? MD2 is some kind of sequencer. It's a performance Cartesian sequencer. What does that mean? It means it sequences in all sorts of different directions. So you have 4 channels, I believe. Each channel has a grid of 4x4 steps, so 16 steps, and you can sequence either through it in like a snake, or up, down, up, side to side, or just follow it in a regular sort of way. Each channel can be CV, it can be modulation, it could be gate, it could in fact even be a quantizer, because you can stick stuff in it as well as stuff out of it. You can record CV directly into a step, I believe, and you have this shred mode which just throws random, hopefully musical things at it in a generative style. It has quite a minimalist interface in terms of how the heck do you program things. It's kind of a step-by-step kind of deal. So there's not a lot of knobs and play to go on, but there's a lot of CV in and out in order to enable you to do the bits you've got to do. It's got a cute little screen, some nice visualizations of what the heck's going on, and I think could be a fun thing. I mean, it's a small format, but to run 4 channels of sequencing within your rack is really, really quite powerful. New module from Strymon. Now, they've produced some corkers in their time with the tape delay, what's a flip, and the big sky type reverb thingy flob. Well, now they've got this here that I've been playing with. I've been privileged to have a little preview of for the last few days, and it's the SuperKar Plus. Now, what do you think that might be? Well, what it is, I can tell you if you like. It's the 32 voice Kar Plus Strong algorithmic module. So it uses our old friend Kar Plus Strong. What's Kar Plus Strong? It's a twang. It's like a physical modelling thing based upon very short delays. So it's something that you can actually replicate with other modules, which is quite interesting. But it's built into this module entirely in order to produce these wonderful string sounds, these plucked sounds, and you can then dampen them and decay them and make them bigger and smaller. It also has like a bottle mode, so no, sort of pipe mode perhaps. It's not blowing on a bottle. I mean, it's blowing down a pipe. So it has a more of a pipey sound to it. I'm still exploring it at the moment, but it basically has those 2 sorts of sounds which you can manipulate sort of easily and straightforwardly. But I mean, on the whole, it just sounds just glorious. You put it through a decent reverb or delay and other bits and pieces, and it's just fantastic. I use the Qubit Surface in my day-to-day rack. Use it all the time as a sound source. I think it's brilliant. Before that, I had a 2HP Pluck, and many people are familiar with the Musical Instruments Rings, which also has a similar Kar Plus Strong algorithm inside. And it's a quite a familiar sound in your rack, but it's something that I continue to absolutely adore. and I find it so useful. It's like a breath of fresh air from all of the analog stuff going on that I usually have going. To throw that in just lifts everything, and then you take it away and get back on with the dark stuff again. The SuperKar Plus actually has two ways of working. It has two sort of channels in it, splits itself down the middle. On the one side is a solo voice where you're just playing one note at a time, although with the polyphony it can overlap beautifully. The other side is a chord voice where you can dial in different chords and trigger those. So all within your rack, you're not having to MIDI or do anything strange. It will all run either chords or single tones, and you can run both together at the same time, I believe, all from within the module within a normal CV gate environment. However, it also has a MIDI in. You can plug in, play it on a keyboard. Fantastic. It's great. It's great. It should be announced and released tonight as I'm doing this. So I hope to get this finished and published by the time it launches tonight at about 6 o'clock my time, I think it is. 10 a.m. over in Pacific time over in somewhere in the United States of America. So I have a full review coming on this very soon. It also features heavily in my Bop and Steve review and also my own Force Bomb review, funnily enough, because it just happened to be sitting there, and that's held those two videos up for the last week, as I'm not allowed to publish them until this is released. So you're just going to get a quick bundle of videos from me this month. But hey, it's looking great. As I say, I'm going to do a review. I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic one because it instantly sounds awesome. Talking of the need for a decent reverb, WMD have got the Cosmic Drift. No, WMD have got the Cosmic Debris, or Debris, I suppose. This is a collaboration with Infrastronic Audio, and it's a delay and reverb, which sounds like exactly the sort of thing I like to have together. Delays and reverbs. And through this module you can cut everything apart, you can cross-modulate, you can throw glitches at the feedback, swirl that around, stuff that somewhere else. You can create big spaces, small spaces. You could push every single tap of the 16 delay lines out into some otherworldly nonsense and then bring it all back to clarity. It looks like a fun module, and it's not the one that they're focusing on at all at the moment, because at Bristronica they had this wave folding regenerating something or other. I don't know, something that takes sine waves and make them slightly different. I'm not interested in all of that, but everybody else seems to be massively interested in it. It's just sine waves slightly shifted, mate. Come on, where's this? Massive reverb and delay going off into the cosmos. Fantastic. More of that, please, I would say. Next to the what's it called? SuperKar Plus, I've got this lovely Riot stereo VCF from Guru Gara Synth, I think it is. Anyway, they sent it to me to try out as a stereo filter with this wonderful cross fader in the middle, which takes it from everything being central into wider and different sort of configurations of stereo spaces. It's fantastic. I've played with it a little bit. Plugging the Carper Strong directly into it is really nice because it can take away the tinsel at the top end, if you know what I mean. And that's been working really brilliantly. The resonance on it is not too much. It really holds itself together with a nice kind of gnarliness, which is great without going stupid and crazy and whistly. So I'll be doing a review on that very soon as well, but it's sounding like fun already. Another thing I saw at Bristronica was from Enjoy Electronics, and I had a look at their strange modulator module. I mean, strange because it looks beautifully odd. It has this completely seamless front panel where this screen just seems to illuminate out of it. That's a touch screen and other bits and pieces as well. There's no edges to it whatsoever. It's a beautiful thing. Anyway, they've had this for a couple of shows, I think, a couple of years even, this particular modulator thing, which I was interested in seeing, and they gave me a good demo, and that was great. However, little did I know that sitting next to it, looking exactly the same, was a different module called the ELFO. It's a similar idea really, but this one you've got 4 channels of LFO. So the first one, which is called something weird, what's it called? The D-Feel. The D-Feel, right, is it's sort of a trigger modulator. So you feed it a trigger and it generates a thing and it does stuff, and you program it in to sort of like follow a sequence, and then it does a modulator, and then it does another one, and you have this sort of series of modulators set up to respond to incoming bits and pieces. Quite interesting, very synced, very creative bursts of stuff, and you can draw and create your own modulation shapes and all sorts of things. The ELFO is similar, but this time you've essentially got 4 channels of LFO, which you can use just like a regular LFO. You've got a choice of different waveforms, or again, you can draw your own and you can modulate your own. They will cross-modulate as well. And they have this magic crystal that they drop in. The idea being that your LFOs hit this crystal and get reflected and refracted in different ways and produce different waveforms and different outcomes at the different outputs, which is fascinating. Fascinating. So I'd like to have a look at that as well, please, at some point. I mean, they do look very similar, and I wonder whether the firmware is exchangeable. But yeah, they look great. And I've not seen them out in the wild anywhere, so I wonder how available they are. But yeah, fascinating. Very, very fascinating. I'd very much like to have a go. Our friends over at Axis Modular have let me know that they're just starting to do a few cases, a few enclosures. There are quite a few at Bristronica, actually, some good looking and different cases coming along. It's good to see different ways that we can house our stuff. But Axis Modular have got a very good, straightforward, simple approach. You've got some kit ones of about 60 HP at about 60 quid, which you can assemble yourself without a power supply, and they're good. Ready to go. Just got to choose what sort of power you want for it. They had some other ones which are built into those kind of camera cases, sort of hardened plastic cases, again around 60 HP, but they're a bit more like 180 quid, a bit more expensive because of the toughness and where all that comes from and how much work it takes to flipping fit rails in one of those things. I can tell you, because I've tried, it's not easy. So getting a system to work that out is pretty impressive. So they're looking great. So if you're into enclosures or other bits and pieces, we've had a number of their modules here, like the LK delay and other bits and pieces like that. So do go and check them out. Right, nearly there. I just wanted to mention Ableton Live and their rental scheme, which I think is a fantastic idea. Now, a lot of DAWs and software companies come up with subscription deals where you subscribe 10, 20, 30, hundreds of pounds a month, and you get access to all their software and stuff. And that's fair enough. That's become a model, whether we like it or not. Ableton have decided that that's not what they want to do. They want you to own the software as much as anything else. But also realise that software can be expensive. It can be a couple hundred quid, and who has a couple hundred quid just to drop on a piece of software when there are free alternatives out there? However, the draw to use something as fabulous as Ableton Live is definitely there. And Ableton want to encourage students or people who don't have a whole lot of money to get on board. And so they're offering a rent to buy solution. So for about 25 quid or euros or dollars, something around that amount per month, you can get the full version of Ableton Live 12 Suite and have the whole lot. 25 quid a month for about 2 years, and then you own it. So there's no like endless subscription or perpetual license. You just sign up for a couple of years and then it's yours. I think that's great. I think that's a great approach to it. And I wonder how that will work out down the line when it comes to upgrades and other bits and pieces. But for the moment, it's a great way in to a premium DAW. And I really appreciate the effort Ableton are going to try to make this happen. Right, some updates for you then. First of all, Synth East. Synth East is coming along greatly. We have everything pretty much planned, but we're just still waiting for a few little confirmations, a few little signatures just to absolutely nail it down. So we can't quite tell you anything about it at all, other than to say we have a fantastic artist booked for Friday night. We've got a fantastic band booked for Saturday night. But which we'll tell you about as soon as we can. But suffice to say that tickets will be available once we have that lineup confirmed, which will probably be in 3 to 4 weeks. So we're looking at the end of October. We think we're going to sell out quite quick this year because of the nature of what we've got going on. So don't delay. I will, of course, make every noise I can to do. Please follow me on all the social medias and all the places where you get your news so that you can be notified when tickets become available. Also, if you're a manufacturer out there who would like to have a table at the show, it's a very exclusive little show where you get some absolutely enthusiastic and engaged people coming to look at your stuff in an environment where we have live music and performances going on threaded into the same space. So if you imagine Bristronica, right? I mean, this is absolutely no criticism of Bristronica whatsoever. It's a fantastic show. But one of the things I wasn't able to do was be in all places at once. So while I was talking to people in the main room, there were discussions going on somewhere else, and there was presentations going on somewhere else, and there were live performances going on somewhere else, and it's all in different places, which is what you have to do at a large show. But at Synth East, because we're compact and stuffed essentially into one old church space, we have it all in the same space. So while we're talking about modular and synthesizers and poking around down here, we then have that broken up by performance, and we all stop, we all take a breath, have a coffee and watch while someone performs something fascinating from the stage, and then we get back on with it again. And it has this rhythm and this very different feel to it because of that. It's not so intense. It's not all talking all day long. It has this lovely, as I say, this wave, this rhythm to it, this pulse to it, which just keeps it fun and lively and interesting. So that's Synth East. If you've never been, do think about coming. It's over in Norwich from the 20th to the 21st of February, I think. The main day being the Saturday where we have the expo and then the gig in the evening. Friday night is more of an interview kind of scenario. Sunday is DIY workshops. That's how it sort of pans out. All the details will be available in a few weeks, as I say, and I'll be making a big fuss about it when it happens. But if, as I was saying, if you're a manufacturer, then just I'll opening bookings for those tables in a couple of weeks, probably a week if I can. So just send me an email just to say I'm interested. If you haven't done already, obviously if I have your name already, don't worry about it. But if this is the first you're hearing of it, drop me an email and I'll put you on the list and let you know when it opens, because we only have room for about 20 to 30 manufacturers. So don't miss out. Also, I'm looking for a couple of artists to perform on the Saturday daytime. Now, during the day, as I say, we have these performances, and the first two I like to give over to local musicians and local clubs and bits and pieces like that. And we've had some fantastic performances over the years so far, from Norwich Synth Club, from EMOM, and from individuals. Just brilliant. Now, what I like those to be is local artists, ideally. So if you're from Norwich or Norfolk or even a little bit further afield, I mean, heck, you can be from anywhere, but ideally what I'm looking for is some local people who would like the opportunity to play in front of an audience. You'll get a free ticket to the event. That's about it. I mean, we're talking about 15 minutes. This is not some kind of headline gig or anything, but it'd be lovely to have someone who would really enjoy performing in that space and would appreciate doing so. That would be brilliant. So please just drop me a line to apply. I would particularly encourage any women out there, any women performers, to apply, because we tend to unfortunately always end up with loads and loads of blokes, and that's fine. I love men as much as the next guy, but it would be great to have some women performers as well. And so I'd very much encourage you, if you're a female performer, to get in touch. My other update is on Synth Picnic, which of course has absolutely nothing to do with Synth East, and I'm very sorry that I made them sound similar in name. But hey, it's just another thing, right? So what's Synth Picnic? What am I talking about now? So Synth Picnic, right, is going to be a monthly pop-up event in Norwich where you can just come and try synthesizers. So Synth East is a synthesizer festival. It's a whole thing with concerts and stuff going on that's fabulous and wonderful, and you have to pay to get in and all that kind of thing. Synth Picnic is simple, low-key, done on a shoestring. It's just a room full of synthesizers, with a few synthesizers in that you can come and play and try out and talk about. That's it. It's free. Just drop in, have a go, have a look, have a fiddle, see what you think. It's in the Honesty Library in the Castle Quarter up on the second floor, just at the top of that swirly staircase at the back, where probably the big Christmas tree will be, I suspect, by this sort of time. And the first one is taking place on the 11th of October, so that's in a couple of weeks from where I'm sat at the moment. I've got a lot to do between here and then. But the idea is simply to fill that gap, because we have lost our local music shops that used to have synthesizers in, and so there's now nowhere to play synthesizers, and there needs to be places where people can just drop in and discover the joys and wonders of making electronic music on synthesizers and modular and find those things out. I'm also hoping to launch a rental service so you can rent a little box of modular to go and try for yourself. You know, all of these things could potentially be flipping fantastic. But if that interests you at all in the slightest, just pop down on Saturday the 11th, come and stick your head around the door, maybe go and get a coffee and then come back and have a play. And it'll be great. We'd love to talk to you, love to see you, love to explain something to you if I'm able to do that, and to make some noises and see where we go. Right, that's it. Pretty sure that's it. That's enough. That's enough. There's plenty more to talk about. There's all sorts of things. I mean, flipping heck, there was a leaked Roland massive drum machine workstation thingamajig that I haven't even looked at. I saw the rather dull looking pictures of this great big board with all these knobs on and stuff, but I don't know anything more about it than that, and I don't have time to look now. I have to stick it in the next one when it's officially released. I think it's officially released on Wednesday, which is probably tomorrow, which is probably after this actually gets out there. So hey, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, then go and Google Roland new drum machine workstation thingamy-bob, and you'll find all about it, and I'll talk about it next month. All right. No more time. No more time. I've got to go make the tea. My daughter's got to go to Scouts, and there's things going on. Got to walk the dog. Life goes on. I've been away all weekend. You can't imagine, the stuff that I'm now behind on. Anyway, so what should we do? This Sunday, live stream. That feels like the 5th of October. Let's do that. Let's chat about it. We can talk about all the Bristronica stuff perhaps, and Synth Picnics. It will be the following week, and I'll be out of my mind wondering what to do and how to get all that together and to make it work. So there's that. Maybe we can make some music. We can play with the SuperKar Plus and other bits and pieces that I've got knocking around. Following on from that, I've got a review of that, of course, and that filter. I've got the Bop and Steve and the Bomb reviews coming out. I've got to do the Stylophone fella, which is here. Beautiful thing. Going to do a review of that. I've got lots of other things to do. I'd also really like to do some DIY this month. That would be superb. Lots of things to build. That'll do us. I think that's all I can think about for the moment. Just to throw out there that if you are someone who has a product that you'd like to advertise in the Molten Monthly, I don't charge anybody for talking about the news. No. But if you want to put an advert just in the first 30 seconds of the video, like I have done a couple of months ago, then just let me know. It's really cheap, really easy. I'll just mention your product as a sponsor of the thing if you want to sponsor it. It could even be an event, it could be a band, it could be whatever you want. You could be having a gig and you want me to talk about it at the beginning. Just give us a shout and I will sort that out. That would be brilliant. If you'd like to support the channel, go over to Patreon, where you can sign up for £1 or £2 in order to buy me a coffee, to say thanks for all the staggering amount of work and effort I put into all of these things. That would be fantastic. Support me. That would be great. I would love that. Otherwise, subscribe and then go to Patreon and support me. Or you can sign up for notifications and then go and support me or something. I just want your money, man. That's really all I want. That would be great. That would be great. Yeah, so there we go. I think that's probably everything. That'll do for now. Yeah. So in the meantime, go make some tunes.